Today we'll be discussing the top 10 greatest Nicholas Sparks film adaptations of novels, and or just the novels, and or possibly just the films, because I've read some of the books and seen some of the movies. But either way, we're making a list. Let's go. I have an odd relationship with Nicholas Sparks. Because his books were in the height of their popularity during my second deployment to Iraq, I ended up reading a good amount of them and watching the subsequent film adaptations. I thought it would be fun to rank them and throw in some backstory about where I was in Iraq when I read the books or saw the movies, because the two will forever be linked in my memory. First, for some honorable mentions, here are some books that have not been adapted into film yet, but I did enjoy the books. First, we have True Believer. I read this book while I was on an 8-hour guard shift guarding a base in Tikrit, Iraq. The reason I was reading a book instead of actively keeping watch over my fellow soldiers and myself is that I was alone in a guard tower for 8 hours a night, and I complained up the chain of command that there's no way somebody can be actively alert for that long over that period of time at night. The optimal guard shift, particularly at night, are 3 hours or less, and you shouldn't be alone at night, ever. For this suggestion, I was given the midnight to 8 a.m. guard shift every night for the next week. So I said, well, fine. If you're not going to take protection of this base seriously, then neither am I. Here I am, Al-Qaeda. Come and get me. I dare you. And if I'm going out, at least I'm going to know if this elderly grandma lives to this novel or not. Next, At First Sight. This is the follow-up book to True Believer, and it's kind of inferior to that book, plot-wise, until you get to the ending. I do feel that you have to read these two novels back-to-back to really get the full impact. Number 10, Safe Haven. Okay, so I never read this book, but I have seen this film a dozen or so times because it apparently is one of the 4 films that the USA Networks owns and would play every Sunday at noon. The plot is all over the place, and the characters and the setting seem to be otherworldly. The twist ending makes you question your own reality. Maybe it's because the director is Swedish and he's more known for ABBA music videos, or the lead actress is from Dancing with the Stars, or maybe Josh Duhamel thinks he's in some sort of a sunscreen commercial. It's all confounding, but strangely comforting. I'm not 100% positive it's not a made-for-TV movie. Number 9. Dear John. This book came out when I was on leave in the middle of my second deployment to Iraq. I read it on a 12-plus hour plane flight from Seattle to New York to Kuwait to Mosul to Tikrit after spending 2 weeks with the love of my life. So maybe my opinion is a little bit tainted on this one, but this frickin' sucks. I was rather surprised that the novelist was able to handle the soldier character so well. He's surprisingly reserved, he's not very macho. I wouldn't even say he's sensitive at times. The book has a very cathartic ending that is a lot less fulfilling than the other novels. And somehow the film is worse. Okay, you can't just 9/11 me into doing something I don't like. That already happened with the real 9/11.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Coming in at number 8, The Best of Me. Didn't see this one or read the book, but I just watched the trailer and 8 seems like the best place for this one.
The very best of me.
Number 8.5, The Longest Ride. I was 73% sure I've seen this one, although they all tend to blend together at this point. I never read the book, that's for sure. Here, let me check out the trailer here. Huh, is that Clint Eastwood's son? Hey, Alan Alda's in this. Okay, hold on, wait a second. Hey, honey, is The Longest Ride streaming on Prime? What about Hulu? Number 7, The Last Song. I skipped the book for this one because I was not in Iraq at the time, but I watched this on a Netflix DVD when you used to get them in the mail back then. I think this was before Miley Cyrus was really big, and I thought she put in a good performance on this one. I don't really remember much of the story, but there was singing and like a dead father or an alcoholic father in there. I'm not sure. I might be confusing this one with my own life.
You have to be apart from people you love. But that doesn't mean you love them any less. Sometimes it even makes you love them more.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something an alcoholic dad would say. Moving on to number 6, The Lucky One. This one starts off promising, but gets very convoluted as the film goes on. I never read the book, but I have been hit by an IED, multiple mortar attacks, and had a drunk sheriff point a gun at me because I was kicked out of a country bar when the DJ refused my multiple requests to play the Achy Breaky Heart. So I can say I lived this one. But really, the whole third act of this film would not happen if this guy just said, "Hey, you know what? I know your brother. I found this picture of you and I wanted to give it to you. Is that so hard? Why can't you function like a normal human being? You're holding down a job, you're making friends, you're not being an unproductive member of society screaming on the internet about adaptations of romance novels. It's like you don't even have PTSD, Zac Efron." I'm sorry, let's move on. Number 5, Nights in Rodanthe. This one's about old people. Sparks novels seem to pull from one of two bags. First loves, and divorcees rediscovering what love is. This one is the latter. Most adaptations tend to be about the former category. But this film is actually good, and I always get it confused with Under the Tuscan Sun because the plots are very similar, and only Rodanthe is set in South Carolina, like most Sparks novels, and Under the Tuscan Sun is in Tuscany. So it shouldn't be that hard, but they both have Diane Lane in them. All right. Let's go back and do number 6 again. Okay, that one went off the rails. Okay, number 6, The Vow, The Lake House, or The Choice. Only one of them is a Nicholas Sparks adaptation. So here's the challenge. Watch all 3 movies without looking at the credits and try and guess which one is the adaptation of his novels. I'll give you a hint. It's not going to be the one you enjoyed. Number 4, The Longest Ride. I've kind of been watching it while I've been editing, and I'm bumping this one up to number 4. It's good. I might even check out the book if there's another conflict in the Middle East.
Love requires sacrifice. Always.
Number 4, and the third. The unshot sequel to The Notebook. That's going to be a TV show, I guess, or streaming or something. Yeah, it's a sequel to a film where both main characters die at the end. But spoiler alert, according to the book, one of them didn't die, and that negates the best part of both the film and the book. However, I read this sequel book, it's called The Wedding, while I was in a scorching hot striker outside of Sadr City in Baghdad in the middle of summer. Well, I had a respiratory infection, so this novel may have been just a fever dream I had. But it's actually a good novel. It's basically about a man who forgets his wife's birthday. And, you know, I've been there, alright? I wish it was actually not connected to the original book, The Notebook. There's really only one crossover character, and spoiler alert, one that died originally. And I think it would have worked as a standalone novel. It's really good. 3, Message in a Bottle. This one, I'm going to call it, this film is superior to the book. In fact, from here on, I think all the films I talk about are going to be better than the novels they're adapted from. I read this one sometime when I was into crit, after I gave up on reading another of his books called The Guardian. The Guardian centers around a dog and a murder mystery. It's really weird and it's very long. But Message in a Bottle is good. The film hits you with some real star power that you lose in later adaptations. You got Robin Wright Penn in there as the workaholic single mom, sent to write a story about Kevin Costner who lost his wife and now litters the ocean with messages from an idyllic sailing boat off the coast of Carolina. Paul Newman's in this. He plays the dad. Can Paul Newman be my dad?
Make a fist. Make it! Not my business. The son is not my business. What the hell else have I got?
This was the first movie adaptation of his novels, and it set the tone for the rest of the adaptations to embrace and then eventually ignore. I remember the novel having a recipe for steak I really wanted to try when I got home. I specifically remember reading this one because I had also found a bootleg copy of the film, and I really wanted to watch it after I read the book. Yeah, my squad mates really hated when it was my turn to pick a movie. Alright, I'll be honest, I forgot what number we're on, but A Walk to Remember. I just remember this book being really short but good, and it was a little out of his style for him. I read it in a condensed book that I got from a Reader's Digest. Maybe it was abridged. I recall that it was not contemporary, it was like in the 50s or something. The boy was in like some sort of a gang or a mob or something, and the girl was a bookworm and daughter of a preacher. You know, that reminds me. The way I found all these books was in the chapels on the bases that I visited in Iraq, which were mostly empty, so it was a great place to catch a nap during the day and no one would find you. Anyway, apparently there was a program where old church ladies donated books and shipped them to troops overseas. That's why I had so many Nicholas Sparks books to read. I was able to find the program online. It's called Operation Paperback. It's been going on since 1999. It doesn't seem to be associated with any sort of church or particular ladies. I just always assumed it was because I found them in a church. But I'll put the link in the description below. Alright, we're there. Number 2. This is the one. The Notebook. Alright, The Notebook. This was the first film adaptation that I had seen with my now current wife, then fuck buddy, and we both loved it. Eventually, she read the book and then sent it to me while I was in Mosul, Iraq. Very early in the deployment. I read this book while I was on a hellish 24-hour guard shift where I was guarding an Iraqi insurgent who I think maybe was innocent in a hospital because he was shot in both legs by an Iraqi National Army unit, possibly an accident, possibly out of retribution. Anyway, he spoke great English and was not very impressed with my choice of literature, but I think he really liked the end. I mean, it's probably not the best story to read while you're captured by the enemy wondering if you're ever going to walk again or see your loved ones. The nursing staff all commented on the novel. And before I left the hospital, a nurse gave me a set of scrubs that I used as pajamas for the rest of the deployment. Anyway, none of the other film adaptations captured the magic of this one. I would argue it's one of the better novels, only because it's shorter, set mostly in the past, and tells a distinct story. With a beautiful ending. If you skip the sequel, which I think I already suggested you check out when it's on TV, it's still good. Alright, we made it. Here we are. The number 1 spot. And you're all wondering, well, you already did The Notebook, so what's this one going to be? And I think you've mentioned all the other films so far. Well, you're right. It's Safe Haven. Yes, that's right. Somehow, this one is both the worst and the best. It's just terribly good somehow. Also, it's the one I've seen the most. And then when she reads the letter at the end, even though it makes absolutely no sense and it's all contrived and that slow music starts in, somehow it still gets me. Here, let's just watch it.
So there's a letter here. It's for you.
And my husband loves. If you're reading this, then it must be true. He loves you beyond a shadow of a doubt, or else he wouldn't have given this to you.
Alright, here's the deal. If you've watched the video up to this point and you've not seen Safe Haven, well then, crack open a can of white Zinfandel and have yourself a treat. If you've enjoyed the video, leave a like. Or a negative comment if you're not satisfied. Or just, why not do both? Thanks for watching. This has been a production of Minimum Effort Media. There are videos here on the 1st of every month starting in 2020. Please subscribe for more videos.